Hey, it's Stacy. If you are enjoying Tell Me What It's Like, please take a moment to go into your podcast app and leave a rating and review. It helps other people who might like this show find it. Thanks for your support. This is Tell Me What It's Like, a show about uncommon experience and the perspective it shapes. I'm Stacy Rain. In 2021, I ended up in 29 Palms, California, a military base in the California desert, because my husband got orders there. I was talking to my best friend about the area when she said, "Hey, you know who lives there? It's the woman who runs Making Home Base." Making Home Base was a social media account that lots of military spouses followed because the creator taught military spouses how to decorate their rental homes to make them feel more like a home. This account had been around for a while, and before that, it was a blog. Chelsea Coulston was one of the early social media influencers, those people who created content for specific communities on the internet. Chelsea, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I am so glad to have you. I'm going to tell you a little backstory. So I heard you were on base back then, and ended up in the grocery store one day, or the commissary. I was walking in, and I saw you. And you don't know this because I started to be like, "Oh, hey, Chelsea," and then realized at the time you and I did not know each other, and I was thinking. In my mind, I'm like, "Oh, there's Chelsea. I'm going to say hi." And of course, realized you didn't know me. You didn't know me then. and that is the way social media works.
It is the way social media works. We feel very close to people that we follow.
Yeah.
And so I wish you would have said hi, but we ended up meeting otherwise.
Yes, we did. And I'm so glad because here you are to talk about the world of influencing. So thank you for being here. Let's talk about the beginnings of Making Home Base.
Okay, sure. So Making Home Base actually came about in 2012. I was brand new mom. I think my oldest was 4 months old at the time, maybe. And we had just moved to 29 Palms. We had just moved to San Diego. And Matt was assigned, my husband was assigned to a ship. And so we arrived and he immediately went underway. So I was like stuck in this new house with a new baby, all these boxes everywhere. And it was the height of like the DIY lifestyle era. So there were blogs on the internet sharing how to do like shiplap and all of these really cool DIY projects, but they all fell out of my reach because we were living in base housing and I could not do anything permanent in that house.
Right. We can't change the walls.
You can't. And so I just started doing some renter-friendly projects to my house and taking pictures and uploading it onto this little blog called Making Home Base. And it kind of just grew from there. And it's evolved over the years for sure, but that's how it began.
It's evolved, it started off as a blog. It evolved into social media as, I guess, media evolved, right?
Yeah.
Your stuff is really beautiful. I've certainly gotten tips from you over time. So the ones that I'm thinking about that stand out, I'm thinking of your kitchen when you had in the house it had white cabinets with an oak trim, like the sort of oranges color.
So late 80s, early 90s. Yes.
Yeah. And so these houses, these rental houses, these base houses are always like fairly plain. Sometimes they're a little bit old. You took some peel and stick wallpaper and some great decor and literally changed the kitchen altogether. That's one of the ones that sticks out to me because I actually ended up doing something inspired by that in my next house after the one that we were in.
And that really is such a low effort, high reward, like little project that I've done in that house. I've done in other homes. The temporary like peel and stick wallpaper is my jam. At this point, I feel like I'm known for it. I just put it up in my pantry at the house that we bought because I am who I am and I'm never giving up my peel and stick wallpaper.
Yeah, it's a quick change that we can then quickly take down when time is up.
Yes.
So you had tons of good ideas. And so you became known for that. But it all first started in the blogging world.
It did.
I feel like we should go back and talk about sort of the beginning days of blogging. Like nobody does that anymore, it feels like.
No, I know. And I've wondered to myself, like, is blogging dead? I don't know. Has it moved? Has it shifted? Because I know like Substack is now coming up, and there's Patreon and Access, but it's now like behind a paywall. So blogging to me was such a great way to get ideas from other people and to connect with like-minded people back in those early, I don't want to say early internet days, but like early kind of media, social, finding your place on the internet days. So I'm thinking, like, for me, I found my spot in 2012, but there were plenty of blogs that were doing it far before that. It was just such a great way to connect with people that had similar ideas as you. And I found tons of people doing the same thing that I was doing. And then I also found people who were just coming to my blog because they wanted ideas, and then they would connect with me that way. And so it was such a wholesome time, honestly.
That is a great word for it.
It really was. I don't recall any negativity at that time. It was really just people like, hey, this is an awesome idea. Thank you. Or, hey, do you want to do a blog takeover? And that's how we would share each other's blogs around the internet.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so there were these really cool ways to connect with people who were, like young moms like me, or just like homemakers who are just not professional designers by any stretch. Like, we all just were making our homes feel like home.
Yeah. And there were interactions, I should say, back then. So
yes.
There was comment features. Yes. It really is a lot like Substack now that I think about it, because people could sort of subscribe to yours. You would email them when a new post came out.
Yeah.
They could comment at the bottom. It's like Substack has sort of reinvented it a little bit.
Substack has brought it back around. And I mean, honestly, Substack feels a little bit like Blogspot, if you recall Blogspot, because you did have like a little sidebar with all of your favorite blogs, and you could like go through and read all of your favorite blogs, comment on them. So yeah, Substack is almost like a new version of Blogspot.
Supports my theory that all media comes back around.
Everything comes back around.
Yeah, it makes me, I guess we're saying that blogs are already back with Substack, but I do wonder if sort of the traditional blogs will make a comeback, because we'll get to this later in the conversation, but I do feel like people might be needing, I was going to say ready for that again, but it's not even ready. It's like done and needing something different.
I think so too. And also, the best part about blogs was it was a way to get free information. Like, you didn't have to pay for anything. The ideas were there. They were free. I didn't have to buy a magazine to find them. I didn't have to go anywhere to find them.
Yeah.
And with Substack, of course, there's a subscription, and it's like, how many subscriptions do I want to have?
That becomes the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, when everyone has a subscription, you can't have I guess some people could have everyone's subscription, but not many of us.
Right.
Not these days. Yeah, it makes me think about blogs back then. It's not that there's anything wrong with magazines, because magazines certainly have their place. But if you were looking for something specific and the magazines that you had access to weren't sharing that, we could go to the internet and look for it. So in your case, it's like, I need some renter-friendly ideas. And you weren't finding a ton of it at the time.
Right.
So you started sharing yours because you figured, I'm guessing, that there's people out there that are looking for this as well as I am. Yeah. And so it makes me think about how we could go find the things that matter to us. We could sort of curate them ourselves. But then social media, and I would say Instagram specifically, got bigger and bigger, and everything sort of transitioned. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I think I've always thought about the online space as kind of like the wild, wild west. Like, we are honestly just riding the next wave, holding on for dear life, because nobody really knows what's on the other side of it. And there was always like something new coming. So like for blogs. It was Pinterest first, became huge, and it brought a lot of traffic to our sites.
Forgot about that.
I think that was the first taste of what it would look like for blogs to become businesses, because Pinterest allowed for massive amounts of traffic to come to your site. So then all of us were like, whoa, hold on. We can actually make money on this, not just like get a couple of free items for our house. Like, we're making like cash.
Yeah.
And so there was the Pinterest wave, and then we turned it into like the social media, like Instagram, even Facebook had its place. I think every blogger I know was posting on Facebook for a time, but because decorating is obviously so visual, I think that the decor blogs, the DIY blogs, found a home on Instagram, and I would even venture to say that they're like the pioneers of influencing.
Really? Tell me more.
So. Well, just because on Instagram at the time, I'm thinking like 2012, we were using Instagram to connect with our friends, right? So we were posting heavily filtered, by the way, images of our, outings or our kids. It wasn't really being used to sell anything. It wasn't even really being used to share anything other than like our daily life. I think home bloggers, and this is just from my perspective, but I think home bloggers started using this as a way to spread their reach back to their blogs. And at the time, nobody really was using Instagram for selling clothes, like lifestyle purposes. We all just wanted to show pictures of our houses.
Right.
And it's, of course, shifted from there. But in those early days, it was used as like just a traffic driver back to our sites.
I hadn't thought about that, but it certainly was a place where you're taking the pictures anyway for your blog. So you go post them on Instagram. It's never been great for linking, but then sending people back to find the whole article. But then it starts to become, I can remember with Instagram, the captions became longer and longer. Yes. They almost became blogs in and of themselves.
Yes. I remember the biggest thing on Instagram was when we could put a link in the story. So stories became huge because even though they would go away, we can add a link to them and we can send people directly back to the blog. So it was always, even in those early days for social media, it was always just a tool to get people back to our site because that's where the money was being made. It wasn't being made on social media. Social media was a promotion tool, but it wasn't our bread and butter.
So let's talk about that. So how did you make money in the blogging world? And then how did that transition into Instagram and sort of make that migration?
So in the early days of blogging, you used to have like little sidebar ads, and maybe a brand would pay you $10 a month for 1 year to have a little ad on your sidebar. I remember when I got my first ad, it was like $40 for 4 months. I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there was this thing called Google AdSense. And then I put like Google ads on my blog. And now they have huge media companies that will run all of your ads for you. So really, you get paid per page view. And so that's why bloggers are always trying to drive that content or drive the views back to their own content, not necessarily social media. But as blogs have kind of evolved, brands are like, wait a minute, this content is actually evergreen. This content lives here forever. It doesn't go away. It's not like a commercial that someone's going to just watch in that flash of a moment, but this content is going to live here for 10 years. So if I pay this blogger, $100 to post about my, I don't know, lawnmower, that many people will see this and it has longevity.
Right.
So then brands started paying bloggers exclusively for content. And that shifted to social media, in which, brands would then want you to post on your blog, but also on all of your social media channels. And then it became what it is, I think, mostly now, which is brands are paying you to post exclusively on TikTok, exclusively on Instagram. But again, that's like a one-time thing. It is not like the passive income of, ad revenue.
Right. Yeah, it's not something you put up and then you get money over time.
Right.
It's a one-time deal because that's what Instagram is a lot of times.
That's what
it's
it
just
is.
that fee keeps getting pushed down versus on, in the blogging days, you can go Google wallpapering my rental house.
Yes.
And they might hit on your website and see your post about that.
Right.
So I know one of the things that you've talked about recently is this huge transition. So you have been sort of, we'll call it an influencer for quite a while at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know, 14 years. So you've seen this huge evolution, as you were talking about, from the blogs and how things worked there over to Instagram. Now there's TikTok. Of course, there's Facebook thrown in there. And there was the days of Twitter. Yeah, I've got lots of thoughts on that. We won't talk about them here. But so you've seen this whole evolution. You've paid attention to it, and you're now not really influencing, as you call it, at all.
Yes. So I consider myself a former influencer, and I take on the title influencer very reluctantly because I've always been a blogger, and that feels more true to who I am and what I was trying to build. Influencing to me requires so many facets that I was never really that interested in doing. And so when bloggers turned to influencing, it was, now I have to write a blog. I have to have beautiful photography because everything is visual now. I have to, I think Instagram is shifting in a way that not everything has to be picture perfect, but for a time it was everything had to be perfectly curated. And so there was so many elements that I wasn't really interested in doing. And so I always wanted to be blogger first and then kind of dabbling in influencing. But now I'm not sure that bloggers are much of a thing anymore, and we are all just influencers.
Yeah, because everyone's moved into that space.
Yes.
And when you moved into Instagram, did you have a lot of followers you had a lot of followers on your blog at that point? And they all sort of migrated with you?
I would say no, actually. So one thing that I found about influencing is your following is different in every single space. So your Instagram followers are not necessarily your TikTok followers, and your TikTok followers are not necessarily your YouTube followers. And so I think it's very rare for someone to follow you in every single social media space, because I think people have their preference of social media outlet or media outlet. And so that's kind of where they gravitate towards. I don't think they're necessarily watching you in all of those spaces. So I don't know that people were following me necessarily from my blog to Instagram, or if people found me on Instagram and then happened to read my blog. But I do recall several years ago doing a poll asking if people even knew I had a blog. And I think 20% people knew I had a blog. 80% did not.
Wow. And so the whole time you're doing Instagram, you're still updating your blog.
Always.
So it's always cross-posting and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's sort of magazine style. Your website is. It's very beautiful, clean. I would say when you were saying, you had to make sure you had beautiful photography, I feel like you always did. So
yeah, I felt like that was kind of part of it, And I always felt like this pull to show up authentically on Instagram, but it felt impossible to me because I don't live my life in this beautiful curated way. So I feel like I could show up like that on my blog.
Right.
Because that's my business. But to show up all the time on Instagram, which we know, like the social media Beast wants us on there constantly.
Yeah.
And so if we have to constantly share to be seen, then I have to show up all the time. And I can't do that with my authentic self, because my authentic self was not perfectly curated everything all the time.
Right. Yeah, who is?
Right.
It's a great point. I want to talk about the sort of the time commitment piece and the sort of different feelings in each space. But I'm also thinking about you had a big following on your blog, then you move over into Instagram where sort of the world was going, and you find a new group of people there. That's interesting in and of itself. It's people who are looking for you and they're finding you in different spots. But that's right. And I would say Instagram wasn't like that originally, but now the push is, everything you read is like, oh, well, if you want anyone to see anything, you have to post every single day, multiple times a day, blah, blah, blah. And if you're not somebody who wants to share their entire life, that's tough.
It is. I mean, it's extremely tough. But the goal of Instagram as a business, right, is to keep as many people on their platform as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't align with what my goal was, which was to push people to my site, because that's where I was making money. So that changed a lot when brands started paying people to, post on social media. And then also we have the whole element of affiliate sales, which changed the game forever. And that is when you are on Instagram and someone you follow that you love is wearing a pair of shorts. You're like, where'd you get those shorts? And they send you a link. It's an affiliate link to Target where they purchase the shorts. And if you buy anything from Target with that link, they will get a little portion of that fee.
Yeah.
And so with the blow up, I would say, of affiliate links and affiliate sales, there was a decrease, in my opinion, of authenticity, because at this point we're now making money hand over fist. And an increase.
You could make a decent amount of money.
Oh, you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so then it was all about more followers. I can stay on Instagram now because this is where I'm making my money.
Yeah.
But then it still leaves out a whole thing of Instagram. You don't own anything that you're putting on Instagram. And I always thought to myself, like, what if Instagram just goes away? Like, and I put all my eggs in this basket and it just goes away. Like, will I lose everything?
Yeah.
So that's why I held so tightly onto my blog, I think, because I thought this is something that I own. Like, this is my blog. Everything I put on here belongs to me. But that's not the case for any of these other sites where you're posting content.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking about the sort of difference between a blog and a website, which I don't know that was ever super clearly defined. Because, when I go to your homepage, it's a website of home decor ideas. And it's, like I said, it's very beautiful and magazine-like. And that's a different experience than going into social media these days.
Yes.
You talked about consistency and having to post all the time. And now we've got this rise of AI. And so what do people do? They're like, well, to stay on this hamster wheel, I got to do more and more and more. They invite AI into the mix. The content increases, but maybe the quality does not along with it.
Yes.
So that's certainly been a huge change. But you talked about sort of being able to show up the way you wanted. On your website.
Yes.
You can have a sort of publishing schedule and decide when that's going to be and what that's going to be about. And back in the days when there were blogs, people sort of knew that publishing schedule, or they got your email and they showed up and they saw what you had to do, or they found you on Google. That was that. There is nothing like that, I don't think, on Instagram or social media, I should say.
No, because even whoever you choose to follow, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see their content, right?
Yeah.
Because Instagram shows us what they think we want to see because of the algorithm.
Right.
And so we can choose to follow whoever we want, but that doesn't mean we're technically going to see their content unless we're constantly engaging with it. And like, how engaging do you have to be as a content creator to make sure that people want to constantly be clicking on your stuff so that Instagram will continue to show your content to more people? Then you get into like the idea of virality and how can I make my content go viral so that I can get more followers? But if the followers I get, are they actually my followers? Like, are they the people who really want to see my content, or did they just like this one thing that I posted?
Yeah. And will they ever see it again?
And will they ever see it again?
It's super interesting because these social media companies need you and me as creators, but they also make it really hard because they also want us to then pay to get our content in front of people.
Yes.
It feels very sort of tangled to me.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the changes that you've noticed? I mean, you know, I know you've said there's been many iterations. You have commented in the past that, you know, if you were, I loved how you said this, if you were writing on the internet in the days of blogs, you know, you've seen how things have just completely shifted. I would love just to hear your sort of thoughts on that in terms of where we are now.
Yeah. So I think where we are now is, it's tough because I think about this in terms of influencing, but also in terms of like just an experiencer, like a user of social media, and talking to people who also are just users of social media. I think we're to this place where social media doesn't feel good. The content that we see doesn't feel real or authentic a lot of times. It is just, you know, like we might follow a mom influencer, but she's literally shopping every day. And, you know, like it's here, check out my Amazon haul and then my Target haul and then my, I don't know, Nordstrom haul. And that doesn't feel authentic to my life. Like, I'm not shopping like that. I'm not constantly buying summer clothes 3 times a week, or, you know, like Amazon home finds. That I felt like that was like a huge thing that I kept getting on Instagram. And I'm just like, I do not need all of this stuff.
Yeah. It looks really nice. I mean, I've been in the same boat. It looks, oh, that's a, you know, pretty vase or cooking utensil or whatever. But I can't redo my kitchen every other month.
Exactly. Yes.
So this is making me think of, so you did home decor content, but you would show up and you would talk about it, and someone would say, oh, cool, Chelsea, where'd you get your shorts? And so I can remember one of the posts you did where you said, hey, a bunch of you have asked me, where'd I get my shorts? Here's where I got them.
Yes.
And so I think you might have been the first person to influence me on clothing.
Well, I hope it was coming from a place of authenticity. Like, I actually am buying these shorts.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me about it, so here's the link.
But that's what I wanted to point out. It's like it was a very, I guess that was a natural progression, right?
Sure.
It's like it's more of like a friend relationship. That's why I saw you in the grocery store and was like, oh, hey. Oh, gosh, she doesn't actually know who I am. Because it feels like a friend. It's like, oh, I would ask my friend, where'd you get your shorts? Even if she's talking about her couch.
Right.
But now, yeah, some of the people that I follow, it's like, I'll send you the link to these 10 things I just bought. And then next week, I'm going to send you the link to these other 10 things I just bought.
Yes.
It's
and
overwhelming.
I think that's why it's really important to look at influencers as not just a person. Like, this is not a person that you're following. This is a business. What they're doing is making money. So they're not just, you know, like Jenny from I don't know where. Like, they are Jenny the business. And so I think sometimes especially in the influencer space, it is difficult to separate those two things because, like, I have a parasocial relationship with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching your kids grow up before my eyes on social media or whatever. But at the end of the day, those content creators are moneymakers. And it is imperative that we all recognize what is happening, because I read that by 2033, it's going to be like over $200 billion industry influencing is. So we're talking about gobs of cash, and it is made to look like this authentic, like, I'm just, you know, I'm just out here showing my crafts, but it's not. We're talking about real businesses
Mm-hmm. That don't know you,
that don't know you.
that might feel like they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing to be able to get recommendations from people, but the question is, are they recommendations anymore? So those shorts, for example,
Yes.
you wore those shorts. I know you wore those shorts.
Yeah.
But the things that we're seeing nowadays, like, do you really have this stuff? Do you
Right.
really like it? Or is it just something I'm going to buy that I'm going to hate because you never actually really tested it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and that goes to your point about the quality of content that we're even getting anymore.
Yeah.
Because when we started, like in 2015, following people who are now posting on Instagram, I did feel like it was, when you showed me the pillow on your couch, I believed that pillow was really on your couch. Today, I don't know. And then with AI, maybe the thing isn't in your house at all. You know what I mean? So there's just so many layers to it. But at the end of the day, I think that influencing has just become such a huge profit that it felt uncomfortable for me to find my place.
And so now you're just stepping away.
Stepping away.
Yeah. Because like you said, it just doesn't feel like the place that you want to be.
Right.
Now, what about blogging or whatever it's called these days?
Yeah. So blogging is so interesting, right? Because I think that people are interested in that kind of content. I don't know that people can get to that content anymore because of AI. Like when first, I really think about, where do people search anymore? Like if you're looking for something, for example, like if you want to see, for me, like a paint color, if I want to see what a paint color looks like in somebody's house, I used to go on blogs. I used to just like type in Google, like, bare white paint, and a bunch of blogs would come up and I could see pictures in people's homes. I don't do that anymore because I don't see that anymore. It's like an ad usually, maybe for Home Depot. It might take me directly to Pinterest, which would take me somewhere else that is not actually the content I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So then I go on Instagram and then I'm able to find sometimes what I'm looking for. Or you know what? I'll even search on TikTok. And so I know those blogs exist. Like I know there's plenty of people who have shared like white paint colors by Bear, but I can't find them. And it's the same, like even if I'm not looking for necessarily an image, I'm just looking up, like how long does carpet last? Like AI is going to give me the answer. I don't have to go to a blog to find that anymore. And so I think with the shift towards more and more AI, we're not going to see blogs because they're not going to be shown to us.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I'm thinking it used to be so easy to go to Google and find exactly what you needed, but now it's much more difficult.
Oh, it's so hard.
But that also makes me think, if we're all going to AI for our questions, how is that going to impact social media? Where's information going to be coming from in the future?
And then like how reliable is the information that we're getting, right? Because, if we used to always Google stuff and we could get like a reputable site to give us the answer, that felt good. But if my answer is coming from AI every time, I'm like, oh, I don't know, I need to dig a little bit deeper. But not everybody wants to dig a little deeper. And so if we are grabbing the first couple lines that we see after Google, they're AI. And so I think we have to really, it's hard, but we have to really dig and think critically about the information that we're being fed when it's something that we're looking for, or even if it's just something that we come across.
Right. I'm thinking about the endless scroll, and it already feels like we have to dig. isn't that part of the reason why we're just continually scrolling? It's like we're doing that because we're looking for something that maybe we're not getting there anymore.
Yeah.
And is there anything wrong with going to a place for information and getting what you want to get out of it and then moving on with your life?
Right.
You can't you can do that, but now companies like Brick have come up to sort of stop us from ourselves.
Yes.
Because the algorithms are so...
And it's like we're jumping from like one platform to the next too. Like like first it's Facebook. Let me endless scroll there. I'm not finding what I want. Okay, let me hop over to Instagram. Same thing. Okay, TikTok now. And before you know it, like you've lost 2 hours of your life and you're like, what has happened to me?
And this is all powered by the content creators that are being told you have to do more and more and more.
Yes.
To get anywhere in this space.
Absolutely.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle, but it is also a really lucrative industry. And I see why people are attracted to becoming a content creator. The potential is huge in having the opportunity to be home, but I also think it's made to look like a pretty easy, sweet gig. But you don't realize that you are now a photographer and a videographer and an editor and a publicist and I don't know, like a brand manager. Like you're all of these things that you didn't intend to be maybe. Right. I know that was the case for me. Like I wanted to write on a blog and then the next thing I knew I was all of these things and I was like, hey, I never intended to make videos. If I wanted to do that, I would have started a YouTube channel. I never intended to be like this whole brand.
Right. Yeah. To do all these extra things.
Right.
And which, okay, let's say you do have to do those for your blog. That's doable if you're doing one article a week.
Right.
But if you're having to do 4 reels a day.
Yes.
I saw actually an influencer the other day say, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing it for free, but now I need to hire a team to keep up. So I have to pay them. So I'm going to have to like make some content that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
Media is changing.
It's changing
rapidly.
Yes.
So what do you think the state of influencing, I guess, is now?
I think the state is anyone can be an influencer. I really believe that. And I also think that influencing is in every facet of our lives. Like not just, like styling, not just home decorating, but we're talking about politics and environment and literally everywhere. They're influencers. And I think pretty much anyone you follow is an influencer. If you have a platform, which Instagram gives you, you can influence people. And so knowing that, I think it's imperative that we all take it seriously and are thoughtful about the things that we share and make sure that it aligns with our values. And I think that is how I ended up walking away from that space is that, how I didn't want to it didn't align with my values to continue to make money in that way. So I was comfortable stepping away from it, but I understand that the beast is so big that not everyone can do that.
Right. I'm curious not if you could go back in time, but if you could reset media into the way that it was, would you go back?
Absolutely, 100%.
Really?
I would, just because I appreciated the wholesome aspect of media. Even if we could just reset to the early days of Instagram in which our timeline was in chronological order and I wasn't being fed people I don't even follow, like videos of people I don't even follow. I would go back for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. If we were in charge of what we were seeing again.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think there is such thing as too connected. And I think that we have gotten to a place that we are all too connected. Everything feels so close that I don't think it necessarily is, but it feels way too close. And it's just not necessary. And I don't think it's good for our well-being or mental health to be that connected. And it doesn't feel like a frivolous, like fun thing anymore. It feels heavy at times. And so going back, I think would be, I don't know, just simpler.
Yeah, simpler is a good word. Yeah, that when you were listening to that, it made me think it can be exhausting.
It can be exhausting for sure.
Even to be someone who's just sort of consuming the content, it just gets to be quite a lot. It's a kind of I know we've said this before, but it's like a vicious cycle of people figure out what's working and how we can make money. And it's not like it's easy times, right? No. So we all need to figure out how to make money maybe on our own.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get hired. It's hard to do this.
All those things.
Figure out what works. And then everyone starts to do it, or a lot of people start to do it, and then it becomes overwhelming.
Well, right. And the goalposts are always moving too. So like once you have figured it out, they have changed. And that's been the name of the game since the beginning of blogs, I think. That's why I said I felt like I was in the wild, wild west, because at the beginning, it felt so easy to get people to get to your site. Like my blog grew so fast and I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. Like, how did this happen? But then, like I said, the goalposts just change. Like Instagram changes its algorithm, Pinterest changes their algorithm. And I mean, obviously, these are big, huge corporations. Like they're doing what's best for them, not what's best for, the content creator, even though the content creator has built them. But, with the goalpost always changing, you have to be willing to constantly evolve. And that means like taking on a whole new role all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Learning something new every day.
Always.
What would you say that you have taken away from this whole experience of being a blogger in the early days of blogging through the sort of social media wave to now where you're thinking, this just isn't really something that I want to do anymore?
I think the biggest takeaway is just the power of social media. I've seen it be powered for amazing things, but also powered for not so great things, right? Like I've seen, people come together to support whole communities who are, in crisis and things like that. And I think that's incredible. Like that's a great way to use social media, but I've seen it for not so good things too. And, I think as we, as like a global community, start to look around and see like, hey, the environment is changing, we are very, very, very connected here. How can we use this as a tool for good? I think is the biggest takeaway, because we're not going to stop social media, and we the little people are not going to even change it. But just remembering that if you're on the apps, you have a platform, because you are influencing just every single person that follows you in your little circle. And so you really have an opportunity to use that for good.
That's great, Chelsea. Thank you so much for joining me for this incredibly fascinating conversation around the internet and social media and influencing.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much to Chelsea Coulston for coming on the show to talk about being an original influencer. If this episode got you thinking about the world of social media, be sure to share a review in your podcast app. I'm Stacey Rain. Thanks for listening.